Lately, I've been reflecting on how challenging it can be to truly let go and trust God with everything in our lives. There was a time when I thought I had surrendered it all, only to realize that I was still holding on so tightly, afraid of what might happen if I truly released it into His hands. Maybe you felt that too, the desire to trust Him completely, but the fear of letting go just keeps holding you back. If that's you, know that you're not alone. Together, we'll dive into this topic, and by the end, it'll feel just a little bit lighter. I want you to pause for a moment and take this step. Write this in the comments. I trust you completely, Lord. Let those words be the beginning of your surrender today. The topic we're exploring today touches many hearts: how to truly give something over to God. I emphasize the word truly because it's not just about saying the words. It's about wholeheartedly surrendering the things in our lives that need to be in His hands. It might be a situation, a relationship, a fear, or a burden that we just can't seem to release. We tell ourselves we've given it to God, but how often do we find ourselves turning back, picking it up again, whether it's hours, days, or even minutes later? This is a struggle that so many of us face, but today we're going to explore how to genuinely let go and trust Him completely. Let's take a look at a beautiful parable from Matthew 20, known as the parable of the vineyard owner. This story holds powerful lessons for anyone wrestling with the challenge of surrendering control to God. I'll share insights and practical steps that can guide us in this process, and my hope is that by the end, you'll have a clearer understanding of what it means to truly release your burdens and trust in His plan, even when it doesn't align with your own expectations. To set the context, this parable comes from a pivotal moment in the Gospel of Matthew. At this point, Jesus had already shared many parables with His disciples, but this one stands out in a unique way. The story begins with a vineyard owner who goes to the marketplace at dawn to hire workers. He agrees to pay them a denarius, the typical daily wage, and sends them off to work in his vineyard. Everything seems fair, right? But the story doesn't stop there. The vineyard owner returns to the marketplace multiple times throughout the day, at 9 a.m., noon, 3 p.m., and even as late as 5 p.m. to hire more workers. Each time, he tells the workers he'll pay them what is right. As the day ends and it's time to pay, something unexpected happens. The vineyard owner starts by paying the workers hired last, beginning with those who worked only for an hour. And to everyone's surprise, they all receive the same wage, the denarius, regardless of how long they worked. The workers who had labored all day, expecting to receive more, became upset, feeling it was unfair. They compared their hard work to the workers who had barely worked, yet received the same pay. But the vineyard owner responds with a gentle reminder: "Friend, I am not being unfair to you. Didn't you agree to work for a denarius? Take your pay and go. I want to give the one hired last the same as I gave you. Don't I have the right to do what I want with my own money? Or are you envious because I am generous?" The parable concludes with a profound statement. So the last will be first, and the first will be last. Now, you might be wondering, what does this story have to do with truly letting go and giving something to God? Let's unpack it together. The first lesson we can draw from this parable is that we must accept that God's ways are not our ways. When the early workers saw that the latecomers were paid the same wage, they felt cheated. They compared their efforts and expectations to what others received, forgetting that the vineyard owner had been faithful to his promise. Similarly, we often struggle to let go of control because we think we know what's best. We measure our outcomes against our own expectations, forgetting that God's plans are far greater than anything we could ever imagine. Imagine holding tightly to something in your life, whether it's a worry, a dream, or even a sense of justice. It's natural to find it difficult to let go and trust that God's timing and generosity are perfect. Yet, this parable reminds us that God's faithfulness doesn't follow human logic or fairness. It's rooted in His boundless love and grace. The vineyard owner didn't shortchange anyone. He was simply generous beyond what was expected. In the same way, God's blessings may not always appear the way we imagine them, but they're always exactly what we need at the right time. Another profound lesson from this story is the importance of releasing envy and comparison. The dissatisfaction of the early workers wasn't due to unfair treatment, but because they envied the generosity shown to others. How often do we hold on to our burdens or doubts because we're too focused on what others have or how their lives seem to unfold? Letting go of comparison and trusting in God's unique plan for each of us is vital. What He gives to someone else doesn't diminish His ability to bless us. Finally, this parable teaches us about the power of surrender. The workers who joined late in the day didn't bargain or demand guarantees. They simply accepted the invitation and trusted the vineyard owner to do what was right. This is the same posture we need when we give something over to God. It's not about bargaining or holding on to control. It's about saying, "Lord, I trust you completely, even when I don't understand." As you reflect on this parable, ask yourself, what is it in your life that you need to release to God? What burden, fear, or desire are you holding on to, afraid to let go? Remember, God's ways are not our ways. His generosity knows no bounds, and His plans for you are good. Truly surrendering means trusting in His perfect timing, releasing comparison, and embracing full surrender. Only then will we experience the peace and freedom that come from placing everything in His capable hands. In my own journey, I've come to understand that trusting God, especially with something as challenging as finances, can feel overwhelming. It's not just about releasing control, it's about stepping into a partnership with Him. That's why I created the Financial Covenant, a guide that helps you build a personal pact with God to eliminate debt. It's not just a framework, it's a way to align your finances with biblical principles, rooted in faith and trust. Even in seasons of financial difficulty, planting a seed of faith is one of the most powerful things we can do. Sometimes offering God our first fruits, even when resources are scarce, is the very act that unlocks doors we couldn't open on our own. If you feel led to take this step, click the link in the pinned comment below. This could be the moment when everything begins to shift, not because of the guide itself, but because of the faith and obedience behind your decision. God's principles are timeless, and His promises are true. And here's something I've learned in my own life. I've often found it easy to trust God when I can see the progress. But real trust means believing, even when I don't understand what's happening. It's about knowing that He's working behind the scenes, orchestrating everything according to His perfect plan. The vineyard owner in this parable made unconventional choices, constantly returning to the marketplace for workers, defying expectations. But those choices were intentional, just as God's plans for us are intentional, even when we can't see the bigger picture. Imagine the vineyard owner who goes out to hire workers even as the sun is setting, with barely any time left in the day. This isn't the usual way of doing things, then or now. And yet, this is how God works. His ways are higher than ours, and His plans often defy human logic. This should reassure us. When we let go of something and place in God's hands, we can trust that He's working in ways we may not immediately see or understand. His timing, though mysterious, is always perfect. The first step in truly letting go is acknowledging that God's ways are not like ours. We may want quick results or visible progress, but His methods often unfold in ways we cannot predict. The more quickly we accept this, the lighter we feel. Trusting that He has control, even when things seem uncertain, is the key to surrendering. We don't always see how things are unfolding, but we can rest assured that God's plan is always greater than ours. The second lesson from this story is to resist the urge to compare ourselves to others. It's easy to feel envious or frustrated when we see others achieving their goals seemingly faster or with less struggle. This longing for what others have is called coveting, and it can lead to discontent. But we must remember, God provides exactly what each of us needs. We can trust in His provision without measuring our journey against someone else's. In the parable, the workers who started at dawn were happy with their agreed wage. But when they saw the latecomers receiving the same pay for an hour's work, their contentment turned to anger. How often do we feel the same way? We work hard, giving our best to God, only to look around and see others seemingly reaching their goals faster. But the truth is, We don't know the price others have paid for their success. What we do know is that God's blessings don't run out. When someone else receives a blessing, it doesn't mean there's less for us. God's generosity is infinite, and there is more than enough for everyone. Understanding this allows us to stay focused on our own path without being distracted by others' progress. The final lesson is to recognize God's grace along the way. His grace is always present, even when we struggle to let go. In the parable, the latecomers received the same wage as those who worked all day, a sign of the vineyard owner's generosity. In our lives, God's grace shows up in unexpected ways, perhaps through a verse in the Bible, a conversation that touches our heart, or a moment of strength that helps us resist picking up what we've already surrendered. Letting go isn't easy. It goes against our natural instincts and requires faith, effort, and intentionality. But when we do surrender fully to God, we experience peace, freedom, and a deeper connection with Him. The same God who gave us the ultimate gift of salvation is more than capable of honoring our sacrifices and our act of surrender. Now, I want to hear from you. After watching this, what's one thing in your life that you're ready to let go of and place in God's hands? It could be a situation, a worry, or an area where you've been holding on too tightly. Share your thoughts in the comments. I'll be sharing mine as well. Thank you for watching, and I hope this message brings you peace. If it helped you, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more inspiration. Peace and blessings to you.